Designing new enemies for Pikmin that all have a musical gimmick to them. It shouldn't come as a surprise that Groovy Longlegs is the community's overall favorite enemy in the entire Pikmin franchise. Clearly, Pikmin fans enjoy a boss fight with good music, a good gimmick, and a cool design. I'm mainly going to be focusing on the mechanics, not too much on the design, but let's cover how Nintendo could make some more bosses with these musical mechanics. Starting off with the DrummingHop. This happy frog is based off Wally hops and would be creating a beat when hopping. This one would have the most unique fighting arena out of all of them on the list. This is because the area where you would be fighting them would kind of be like a little tribe or village, but the area itself isn't just like a standard tribe or village built on dirt or in the trees. It would actually be built on a drum, which would play into the mechanics of the arena battle. Their design would be wearing like little tiki masks or just some kind of different colors to differentiate them from all the other frogs in the game. These frogs would be quite large, comparable in size to the Master Hop. As these large frogs hop around, they'll be doing it in a way to create a beat. And as you defeat more of them, the drumming beat slowly fades out. Up next is the Burrowing Maraca. Based on the Burrowing Snagret, this would be like a Snagret with maracas. Their design would be similar, only having some rings around its neck, allowing it to replicate the design of a rattlesnake's tail. The Shaking Snagret would, you guessed it, shake its head just like a rattlesnake, and when it finally strikes, you hear a very large shake. It would also double strike from time to time, just to make the music a little bit more dynamic. Next up is the Bread Accordion Bug and the Beatbug. The accordion is pretty simple. The body would just literally be an accordion, and as this bug boy walks around, he makes some cool music. He'd still do regular breadbug things for the most part, this is just kind of a funny addition. As for the beat bug, this guy would function similar to the giant breadbug, except for one defining feature. When he charges at Pikmin, he will let out an MLG horn effect, which would knock over not only the Pikmin in its path, but also disorient all the surrounding Pikmin as well as Ochi, which can really mess up your Dandori, especially against the last enemy on this list. However, before moving on to the last enemy on the list, we have a few more to cover, like the Flutling Groink. This enemy is based off the Gatling Groink and would play some flute tunes as it fires at you. Not too much new from the design perspective or even from the mechanics. The notes could vary depending on the range of the shot and how frequently it's shooting. Apart from that though, it's just a standard enemy with a slight adjustment that might make it a little bit more fun, or annoying to fight, depending on your taste. Now we have the Armored Horn Beetle. This is probably my favorite on the list, and this is because the enemy is like a horn, either a French horn or even a tuba. Now the reason for this is because depending on its rate of fire, if it's playing small notes, it will fire small rocks at you. But when you hear that big tuba coming, you know a really big rock is coming, and it'll obviously take a little bit more time for it to fire. But the beetle itself playing these lone tuba notes would be a little slow and not very musical, which is where the squad comes in. You get all the larvalings, and you make them have these little trumpet-like sounds as they're firing small rocks at you during the fight. They would be playing supporting notes and playing a supporting role in this epic battle. Maybe even give one of them a saxophone solo somewhere to make it really cool. This would probably be the most chaotic fight ever, but if you just bring rock Pikmin, you're good to go. But why have all the enemies be a variation of an instrument? Why not have some environmental music that the boss works with? To start, we have a cave as the location, but not a Pikmin cave, where the inside can be literally anything. I mean an actual cave with stalactites and whatnot. The music from the environment would be water droplets. Of course, the water droplets would be falling in a rhythm in order to create a cool musical key, and our cave dweller can be anything really. I personally think some kind of lizard or reptile would be pretty cool to see in the series, and of course the lizard would do stuff that works with the water and stalactites in order to make some music that would be just a cool and entertaining boss fight. You could probably have some glowing mechanics similar to the Behemoth Bossbat, and I could see Nintendo doing a lot of really cool and interesting things if they do a boss fight like this. The other environmental boss fight takes inspiration from Serene Shores. The location would be a coral reef, and for the first time in a mainline Pikmin game, you would fight an aquatic boss while swimming around with your blue Pikmin. And I mean an actual aquatic boss. Not man at legs surrounded by water, and I mean actually swimming. Not like Serene Shores where you just fall to the bottom. There are already swimming animations for the captain and the blue Pikmin, so everything is already set up. You just need to actually make the player be able to swim and fight in a location of water with a lot of verticality allowing you to swim up and down. The boss would either be a big fish or a big crab, or both. And they would make the music as they swim around hitting the coral. This would create for a very lighthearted, I want to say choral type of music that's done in a lot of movies and in some games. I think an aquatic fight like this would be very, very beautiful just to see and interesting compared to every other boss fight in the game. It would also be just a lot of fun. Before we move on further into the video, if you are enjoying it, subscribing would mean a lot to me as it does take time to make these videos, and I try and release Pikmin content a couple times a week. Moving on, the last two enemies on this list aren't super musical, but I wanted to include them anyways. The first being the tag team duo of the Smoky Prog and the Mamuda. These two are said to be the same species. Or rather, they are the same species, it's just that one hatches too early and somehow becomes this absolute monster of an enemy, whereas the other one just wants to vibe with flowers. This fight would be both of them at the same time, the two brothers working together. Only, the fight would be a very cinematic kind of ambient fight, where you'd be fighting in the moonlight while something like the Moonlight Sonata is playing in the background. Why? Because it would be a cool, sad, epic, memorable fight in the series. Super unlikely to happen, but hey, I think it's still pretty cool and I think a lot of people might enjoy it. Last but not least, we have Crumbug Dandori. For those that don't know, Crumbugs in Hey Pikmin suck. They were like these buggy Goombas with broken hitboxes, making them almost always kill your Pikmin whenever you saw them. They were also put in some of the most annoying levels, so most people that played Hey Pikmin did not like these guys at all. But, for the purpose of this video, we are taking this Crumbug and we are redeeming him by turning them into little tiny bread bugs. The giant bread bug carries 30 weight. The other two that I mentioned earlier would probably carry 30 weight as well, maybe a little bit less. The regular bread bug carries 10 weight, and the Crumbug would carry 1 weight, which isn't enough to do anything. But this is where the new mechanic comes in. Currently, the way bread bugs work is that they carry stuff alone, and as soon as one of them starts carrying something, the others will not help it. Well, what I'm doing is, bread bugs will now work together to achieve their goal. Their goal, collecting all the treasures before the player can. Making this a Dandori battle, only instead of being against a lame leafling, you're going up against the bread bug family. This battle isn't going to be musical at all, apart from the two enemies that I made that were slightly different, but I thought it would be a lot of fun just to have a bread bug battle where you see the giant bread bugs along with these little tiny Crumbugs carrying stuff and battling against you. It would also just be hilarious to see it happen, and it would just kind of be a fun, whimsical thing. I don't see enemies being added into this mainly because bread bugs can't actually fight against other enemies, so I would see the bread bugs having a slight numerical advantage against you, and you'd have to beat them by outmaneuvering them and outplaying them with your Dandori skills. Let me know what you think about all these enemy ideas in the comments below. Until next time.